The sun was just starting to sink when it happened. My tractor rumbled down the rows, the corn swaying like golden waves under the autumn light. Harvest was late this year because of storms, and every minute mattered. I'd been running on coffee and barely 3 hours of sleep for days, pushing myself because the weather forecast threatened more rain. I remember wiping sweat from my forehead, my back aching from sitting so long, when I saw a blur of shiny chrome creeping up the dirt path. At first, I thought it was a lost tourist. People often drove into the fields, thinking it was some kind of scenic shortcut. But when I saw the license plate, I knew it was her. Karen. She was the self-appointed queen of the HOA across the road, a woman who lived in a house so big and sterile it looked like it belonged in a magazine, not in our town. She complained about everything, the smell of fertilizer, the noise of tractors, even the rooster crowing at dawn. She wanted country views without country living. Her SUV stopped right in front of my tractor. I hit the brakes and climbed down, wiping my dusty hands on my jeans. "Evening," I said, trying to keep my tone polite. But Karen didn't bother with greetings. She leaned out her window, sunglasses still on though the sun was nearly gone, and snapped, "You're making too much dust. It's blowing toward our homes. My children can't breathe." I bit the inside of my cheek. Dust in harvest season. That was like complaining about sand at the beach. Still, I tried reason. "Ma'am, I've only got 2 days left. After that, it'll settle. The harvest can't wait." But Karen wasn't here to listen. She slammed her door, stomped toward me, and before I could stop her, she shoved her SUV into gear and clipped the side of my tractor with the bumper. The sound made my stomach drop, metal crunching, paint scraping. My tractor, old but reliable, rocked under the hit. I froze, staring at the dent in the side, my hands trembling. She crossed her arms, smug. "Maybe now you'll learn to respect other people's property," she said. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She'd hit my tractor, the machine my father had saved years for, the one I depended on for this very harvest. And she acted like she'd done me a favor. I felt my chest burn with anger. "Lady, that's not how this works. You can't just..." But she cut me off. "If you call anyone about this, I'll make sure the HOA fines you for every piece of dust, every noise, every violation. You think you farmers are above the rules, but you're not." That was the moment I knew I wasn't dealing with a neighbor, I was dealing with a bully. The damage wasn't just cosmetic. When I climbed back into my tractor and tried to start it, the steering felt stiff. She had bent the axle just enough that I couldn't maneuver through the rows properly. My chest tightened with panic. Without the tractor, I couldn't finish harvesting on time. That meant the corn might rot if the rain hit. Months of sweat, money, and hard work, all gone because of her. I stared at Karen, who was already on her phone, smirking like she'd won. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't about to be bullied into silence. I pulled out my phone and dialed the sheriff's office. Out here, everyone knows everyone, and Sheriff Daniels had known my family for years. When I explained what happened, he didn't hesitate. "Stay where you are, son. We'll be right there." Karen laughed when she overheard. "Oh, please. You think anyone's going to take your side over mine? I'm on the HOA board. We run this community." But she underestimated something important. Out here, farmers don't bow to HOA rules. The law is the law. When the sheriff's truck pulled up, lights flashing, I felt a wave of relief. Daniel stepped out, broad-shouldered and calm, and took one look at the dent in my tractor and the scrape of paint left on her bumper. He asked me to explain, and I told him everything, how she deliberately hit my tractor and threatened me afterward. Karen immediately jumped in, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Sheriff, this man has been terrorizing our neighborhood. The dust, the noise, it's all too much. He practically forced me into this accident. I shouldn't even be here breathing this polluted air." But Daniels wasn't buying it. He examined the damage, then walked back to his truck. A few minutes later, he came back with a clipboard. "Ma'am, you're under citation for reckless driving and destruction of property. And until this matter's resolved, your vehicle is being impounded." Her jaw dropped. "Impounded? You can't do that. I'm on the HOA board." Daniels just raised an eyebrow. The HOA doesn't outrank the state of law, ma'am. When the tow truck arrived, Karen shrieked, waving her arms, threatening lawsuits. But the driver calmly hooked up her shiny SUV and pulled it away. The sight of it being hauled off was a balm to my aching heart. My tractor still needed repairs, but my neighbors, real neighbors, not HOA tyrants, came to help. Mr. Alvarez brought his combine, and young Tyler, barely 16, showed up after school to run grain carts. Together, we finished the harvest before the rain came. That night, as I sat on my porch, the cool air brushing against my tired face, I realized something. Karen had tried to intimidate me, to make me feel small. But instead, she brought my community closer together. Her power was all bark and no bite, and when confronted with the truth, the law stood with me.